Good evening, you motherfuckers. Today is June 8th. This is a Toho 14 Lunatic No Bomb 1cc with Sakuya A. Done God knows when from a computer that's not mine. I don't remember anything of this run, and that means we are done the 30 seconds of acknowledging the run, and we can continue with the talking points. If you have the IQ of a fish, you may have been able to read the topic of the video. The title says Memory is Mastery. It is what I truly believe to be one of the most important pillars of being better at this genre is learning things, committing things to memory, memorization. It is so important and vital to the growth of a player that I want to talk about it today. Over the 11 years I've been in this genre, I have seen probably hundreds of players, old and new, strong and bad, including myself, who have hated the idea of memo, who want nothing to do with it. They want to just turn their brain off and rely on, quote, pure dodging skill to win. Now, I think that's naive. I think that's silly. I think it's, frankly, disrespectful to the genre itself to treat it like that. But, you know, that's neither here or there. That's my own opinion. Like, you can't just win by turning your brain off and dodging. You know, you need to commit shit to memory. Now, what is memo? I know that probably sounds like a stupid fucking thing to say. What is memorization? Well, I mean, some people like to think that other things are memo when they're not, or they like to think things aren't memo when they are. Let's take an example. A common thing that is called memo are things like blind killers, right? An example that comes to mind is that one boss in Gunbird 2. Fucking hate Psycho, by the way. That one boss in Gunbird 2, I think it's like stage 5 or 6, that shoots lasers straight down after shooting like a spread attack or something. I don't fucking know, but it shoots lasers straight down. That's like a classic learn the game pattern, right? You need to learn it before you can proceed, which some people find not fun. Personally, I think that's a bit of a lazy pattern design. It's not necessarily fun to learn. I'll get more into that later in the definitions that I've kind of made for the different types of memorization. Other types of memorization are stuff like visual cues, audio cues, timings with the stages, going from point X to point Y at a certain point to kill something quickly. I think those are fucking awesome. It could even be something like resource management, mechanic usage. It could be dodging fundamentals that you apply to specific patterns, like different approaches that you need to employ before you can even proceed with proper dodging of the pattern. Now, here's where things are a little controversial, and you know, people might take it the wrong way. I feel if you as a player just hate the idea of memo, you completely dismiss the idea of memo, and you don't want anything to do with learning things, you don't want to commit shit to memory, you don't want to give the game your time of day to learn it at its level, to appreciate the design that goes into it, to its stages, to its bosses, to its mechanics, to its patterns. You just might not enjoy shmups as a full package. Like, I don't think that's that insane to say. You can enjoy parts of a game and then hate the others, right? If you sit there and you're like, man, you know, like dodging this pattern in UST, you know, it's cool and all, but man, like learning this stage sucks. Like once you learn it, it's a solved stage. There's like no depth to it. Like, you might just not like shmups as a package, like as an entire package. They may partially appeal to like what you like in games, but you might just enjoy other games that hone in on what you like of shmups. You might not just like the entire package of the genre, and that's fine. Like, you can love the dodging part but hate the memo, right? But as long as you're like upfront and honest about it and kind of be like, yeah, you know what, I may not like shmups, I like the dodging part of these games, and you know what, as a, you know, person to person kind of thing, when I started out, I think a year and a half in, I hated the idea of like practicing and sitting down to learn shit and like learning stages. I thought that shit was fucking boring. You know, why would I do that? Why would I do that when I could flail around and win that way and like spam resources and whatever, right? So, you know, that's how I felt in the past. Okay, it's not me being on my fucking high horse and be like, you kids don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. You know, I was that motherfucking kid, you know? I know what it's like. I have felt it before. And, like, you don't need to like Memo right away. You can kind of ease into it. You can warm up to it. You don't have to jump right in the deep end. Okay. You can, if something's giving you trouble, why not just kind of like learn it casually, right? You could sit down with it, kind of view it as like a puzzle to solve, rather than this thing that needs to be done perfectly every time. Okay. I think that's the controversial part of the video done for now. Maybe we'll touch back onto it. I do actually think, like, people that hate Memo and just despise the idea of learning and routing, like, there are other games that are more suited to what you appreciate in a game, and shmups as a package just might not be for you, and that's okay. So, a definition that I have in my notes here, my fucking notepad.txt, is active memo and passive memo. Now, they're a bit ambiguous in naming. Let's take an example. For me, the idea of learning R-type is really boring, right? It's mostly just kind of sitting in spot X and then going to spot Y, with some exceptions. I'm not going to say it's a bad game, but I don't like the idea of learning R-type. For me, that is more a passive memo, where you're kind of going from like spot A to B, you're going through the motions. It's very passive in how you approach it, and personally, this is me, I think it's not that interesting to learn. However, if you want to actually play those games seriously, and this also helps if you like the game, that passive memo is a lot more important to you. That passive memo is basically required to finish the game, and I think that's pretty cool. It's just I don't like R-type. I fucking hate it. The other one is active memo. Active memo is where you're following a general approach. Let's say in a game like Mushi, where you need to be in this spot to instantly kill something, and then you follow a bullet wave down with it to get to this spot, and then while you're going to that spot, you're also streaming bullets. Like, you're not flailing, and you're not doing shit at a static rate. You are following a approach as you go through a stage, and you're kind of going along with it, right? You're not committing it entirely one-to-one to memory. You're not following like an input string. You're memorizing something, you're learning something, and then you're applying that knowledge to what's happening right now. You're not essentially reading from a book. Which goes into a later point, so I'm kind of getting out of order. I already scrapped one of the previous recordings because doing this type of video unscripted is really fucking hard, and I'm not scripting it. I mean, as I mentioned, not every game has fun memo, which, you know, your mileage may vary. Again, people's tastes and opinions are different. Some people might fucking love the idea of R-type, right? They may think that it's relaxing. They may think that being able to get through the game by going from spot to spot is like a pure mastery of the game. And you know what? I agree. I will agree. It is a form of mastery. I don't think there's anything to deny that for. It's just not something that I like to do. But I'm not going to yuck someone's yum if they're like, man, you know, R-type's memo is really fun. It's like, you know what? May not agree, but I will agree that it's important, because memo is one of the big pillars of improving at this genre. And the learning process of memorization is very important, such as, is committing something to memory fun? I know, the big F word, right? The fun word, the big ambiguous term that like people throw around as like a catch-all thing. I think this is actually very important to people's approach on the idea of memo. A lot of people, when they hate memo, they usually are trying to memorize something that is either like way above their league, or they're trying to memorize something that's like extremely precise and super punishing if they fuck it up, right? I think it's best to kind of start at a more casual level of memorization. Again, as you get better at the genre, you can challenge yourself more and more, but you don't need to commit like crazy hard shit to memory right away. Okay? And also, like, It doesn't need to. You don't need to find everything fun. If you don't find something fun and you don't want to keep playing the game, if you're like, you know what, I don't want to memo this right now, you don't have to. Put it away for later. That's what's great about these games. There's like 7 million fucking shmups. Like, I'm sure it'll be okay if you decide, hey, you know what? I'm not digging this right now. I'm not digging the kind of routing I have to do. I'm just gonna put it away for later. Maybe I won't come back to it. Maybe I will. And I think that's what's so great about this genre is there's so many fucking games to play. There's so many different ways to play them that you can just do whatever the fuck you want. Something that I feel many people don't talk about is resource routing. Now, I know this doesn't apply to the replay on screen. You know, God forbid I mentioned the fucking video happening, right? Because this is just like a pure execution replay. There's no resource routing going on. But when you play games that have less resources to play with, for an example, I was playing Thunder Dragon 2 a little bit, going through the motions, trying to learn some safe approaches through it. Interesting thing about that game is you get no extends. You get 2 lives and you get a fuck ton of bombs. So because you're you're a little strained of resources, it can be pretty complicated to decide, hey, where do I want to use these bombs? Like, I don't get that much wiggle room here. Like, yeah, I get a lot, but there's a lot of stuff in this game that'll fuck you up if you're not doing shit in a really precise manner. So it can actually be super complicated to properly plan out a resource route. It's not just as clear-cut as doing everything perfectly and then kind of bombing when there's mistakes, because if you bomb when there's a mistake, it could be too late, and there you go, you just wasted fucking 8 bombs. But if you route like all those resources, then any mistake is essentially like a huge fucking problem. Personally, and this is just my own experience, I like to kind of go in the middle. I like to route enough shit to where I'm consistent at enough of the game to where I have like a little bit of breathing room, like a good little cushion, a nice comfy cushion of extra resources that I can fall back on, right? I think I go over that in that old like how to improve at shmups beginner label or something. But basically the way I approach resource routing and resource memorization is learn, I guess, the easier patches. Like if I'm planning on using a bomb on like the stage 6 section, that right now in my current routing I'm like timing it down and stalling it just to have less shit on screen, right? If I'm using a bomb there, it might be in my best interest to learn that section so that way I get an extra bomb for the nightmare that is the last stage in TD2. Like, holy shit, that thing is a nightmare. Also, hilarious routing mistake by me there. Yeah, memory is mastering my ass. Another thing I kind of want to mention is going past survival, right? The almighty score attack, right? Score attack requires just so much more memorization that it's evident that memorization is like a core component of this genre. Like, it can't be ignored. You can, like, people when they're doing survival, it's pretty easy to just kind of dismiss it. Like, yeah, you don't need to memo. You don't need to memo this. You don't need to memo that. You know, just kind of raw dog a lot of it. When you push yourself further and further and further, is when it becomes really clear that, shit, man, I need to memorize this thing. I need to memo. I need to practice. I need to learn. And not everyone gets that far. You don't need to get that far. You don't need to push yourself to like a crazy high scoring. But I think it's, in a way, humbling. It's humbling to feel like you're on top of the world with like survival clears, and they're like, you know what? Let's go for a score. I felt this myself when I was playing Bat Rider, and I went from like clearing with all shots to like, you know what? I want to get a good score. I want to get an F score. I had to put so much more shit about Bat Rider to my brain than I ever had to for any of the survival runs, and it was humbling because I thought I was top shit for getting all 18 clears or whatever the fuck it is, 16, 18. I thought I was top shit. I got my ass humbled because I thought I'd get F pretty easily. And no, man, it kicked my ass. I needed to learn a lot more of the game before I was ready. And I think that's a good experience for a lot of people. Be humbled by the game. You know, get your ass kicked. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good thing. It teaches you a lot about the game, and especially a lot about the genre, to get humbled by it while trying to score it. Something that, you know, I had a fun Discord moment with someone earlier is the idea of solving something, right? As in learning a part of the game that becomes, like, quote, trivially easy or quote, solved, right? Now, that is true in some games, not to mention R-Type again, right? I remember learning, like, Summer Loop 2 in that game. I sat down for, like, a few little bits in the summer. I was like, you know what, let's see if I like R-Type. Answer, no, but I did learn most of it, and I was getting pretty consistent. A lot of that game can be, quote, solved, but of course, it's not 100% consistent, because human error is a thing. Right? You can't rely on getting something down in practice a few times, 100%, like 5 out of 5, right? You can't say, oh, I've solved it, this section is now useless, you know, why bother doing the rest of the game when I've solved this part, right? Now, I think that's super naive, because unless you actually have, like, a 100% consistency, I'm talking, like, 100 out of 100 type shit, or in the Toho community, like 1,000 out of 1,000, I think a few patterns can reach that consistency. There will almost always be a better approach, a safer approach, a approach that scores higher, approach that gets better consistency. I think if your consistency on something that doesn't reach 90% or higher, and you're calling it like memo trash or like solved or a solved pattern, your argument's false. You're just talking shit for nothing. You still got a lot to learn if you're calling something solved at 90% consistency. Nothing in this genre is necessarily solved unless it is a safe spot that trivializes something and makes it free. Okay? There's always ways to improve, and there's always ways to learn more. I'm kind of running out of things to say. Fuck me. It's already 17 minutes. To kind of go back to the score attack bit. You do reach a point in your shmup playing where if you're not committing stuff to memory at a certain point, you do kind of get hard stuck, right? Like, if you're trying to learn something, like let's say a Psycho game, right? If you're not committing like those stages or those boss patterns to memory, you will get hard stuck at like 1-6. That's just a fact. You might sometimes like flail through and get to like 1-7, maybe 1-8, but until you actually properly analyze and properly sit down and learn these patterns, you will not progress. You will stay where you are until you, I don't want to say anything mean, but like until you kind of like get up and be like, you know what, I need to learn this. And you know what, if you don't want to sit down and learn something, there's no issue, man. I got no issue, as long as you're not being like an asshole about it, right? Like if you're not sitting there being like, you know what, memorizing in shmups is like a waste of time, right? If you can memorize something and like route something and like do it from memory, then it's a waste of time. If you're not doing that, then I got no issue. But as soon as you start saying shit like that, then we got a problem, because it reeks of inexperience. It reeks of it. Because anyone worth their shit can tell you that even if you memorize something and commit it to memory, human error is still a fucking problem. You can always fuck up a strat, you can always fuck up a route, you can always fuck up a safe spot that you've done 600 times. You could be misaligned, you could be nervous and tap it wrong, you could just do it wrong, like you position in the wrong spot, you line up wrong in the background, you time it wrong with how you're supposed to go into it. You know, there's so many ways you can fuck up something in this game. In these games, sorry, not DDC. DDC, you know, you breathe on it wrong, you fuck up, because this game's like Omega impossible, but I'm just whining. And you know what? My notes are done. We still got like 6 minutes left. I don't know what else to talk about. God damn it. Shit. I should have wrote more, shouldn't I? Fuck. God forbid I talk about the run, honestly. I'm not doing that. I think, you know what? Let's talk more about active and passive memo. There was another let me scroll through. I remember I mentioned it in another server. What did I just call it? Oh, shit. Bear with me, guys. I'm fucking brain damaged. Drain damaged. Brain damaged. Oh, here we go. I use the terms learned and experience approach, and a good friend of mine, Crazy4 Pokemon, says structural versus intuitive. So, the difference between the two. Let's say there's two bullet patterns, right? We're just going to use bullet patterns because it's a Toho video, and it's the easiest thing to bring comparison to, because I don't really want to think of arcade stages in this context, because most of them are structural. So let's take two bullet patterns, right? I'm going to name drop them. They're in UFO. Radiant Treasure Gun and Greatest Treasure. Both very scary, like laser firewall patterns. They're both random, and they're both a big threat. Greatest Treasure is a pattern that, on paper, looks completely raw, right? However, the more you do it, the more you will learn this sort of intuition on how to dodge it, how to approach it, where to position yourself, and how to read it. That is what I call an experience approach that you learn. Experience approach memo or intuition. Radiant Treasure Gun, on the surface, looks a lot more just structured, right? It starts off going side to side. And knowing a good way to approach the dodging, as in where to be and which ways to go, makes that sort of dodging significantly easier. It rewards you for actually learning an approach rather than trying to raw dog it. Like, you can raw dog RTG, right? You can do it. Won't get you far, but you are distinctly awarded figuring out a good approach because you instantly bring your consistency from like 6% to like 30. RTG, a good player can already drop like 25, 35 consistency. However, until you get that intuition of how to read GT, you will be sort of hard stuck there, your little bits of improvement, but once you kind of like break that mold, so to speak, you will see a noticeable jump in improvement. The pattern will make sense to you. For me, my own experience, Pristine Danmaku Hell, PDH, this pattern started off like near unreadable to me. I couldn't understand a thing that was happening. I couldn't parse it. I had like an extremely low consistency. And then I started going for a timeout. Without even realizing, I was memorizing how to read the pattern. This is like the sort of active memorization that I mean. You're actively learning and actively like learning how to approach something the more you do it. Right? It makes it not feel like work. Which again, some people like it more than the standard memo of, you know, learn the thing by going here and not doing the thing that gets you killed. Right? But the thing I want to express here is that memorization is significantly deeper than just static versus random. Okay? There's depth to memorization. There's more ways that you can learn something than just like a notebook, than just like a test, right? You're not just kind of reciting answers off of a quiz sheet for memorization. You know, you have to learn shit by doing it. You learn from experience. So that way you can actually fucking not fuck this up. This is the only thing in the run that I'm going to mention. Classic. Completely against the point of the video, right? This is a, you know, I'm going to say it, a memo spell, right? You learn the approach and your consistency instantly increases. However, I got it down in practice a good amount, right, on a different PC. I think I was like 50-60%, something like that. And then in a run, I fuck up, you know? Goes to show that even if you learn something, you sit down and learn and you feel pretty fucking consistent about it, you feel pretty good about yourself, you get fucking humbled. You can get humbled so easily. That was 3 deaths to this shit. 3 deaths. Almost a 4th. Probably a few more frames, it would have been a 4th. Really funny, by the way. Honestly, that's kind of it. I feel like this video may be a little more controversial than others, especially with the phrase, like, you may not like shmups as a whole if you don't like memo, which, again, I do share that opinion. But it's not a bad thing to have that, right? It's not a bad thing to only like the dodging aspect of shmups, right? As long as you're not a dick about it, right? Like, as long as you're not sitting there on your high horse saying, you know what, memorizing this shit, waste of time, you know, why would I bother, you know? Shmup should just be, like, dodging, you know, not a care in the world about actually, like, learning the game on the game's level, right? There's a difference between not wanting to do something and hating it, and not wanting to do something but respecting it. And I think that's something we can all learn, not naming names, because there's no name to name. But, yeah, kind of abrupt ending. But, yeah, I hope this video doesn't get me killed. But thank you for watching.